Surya Saha and welcome to the Insurtech Story videocast. It's the first debut videocast that we are starting as part of the Insurance Technology podcast, which is nothing but the Insurtech Story podcast. Today we will discuss on the topic synergies in cybersecurity and insurance. And for that, we have our special guest, Hilario Itriago, who is the president of Box Insurance, United States. Hilario, a seasoned insurance professional, boasts over 20 years in the industry, predominantly with RSA Insurance Group. Notably, he served as Regional Chief Operating Officer and later the Chief Executive Officer of a $1.2 billion business spanning 6 Latin American countries, achieving a remarkable 19.4% of cumulated, or rather the CAGR, from 2010 to 2014. With extensive expertise in diverse markets like the UK, the Baltics, and the Latin America, Hilario has proven leadership in steering substantial business growth and facilitating strategic transactions. So Hilario, a warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite. And now that you read that intro, it makes me feel very old.
It's a very rich experience. I'm very much delighted to have a person like you who can really share your experience through the content of this podcast and reach millions who would really learn from your experience and, of course, thereby execute that.
Delighted to be here.
And, as we already mentioned, the topic of the day is synergies in cybersecurity and insurance. The first question to you is, how are the evolving dynamics of cyber threats influencing the collaboration between cybersecurity and insurance industry, and what synergies can be identified in addressing the rapidly changing risk landscape? What's your thought?
Sergey, it's a great question, because one of the key things about cyber insurance is that as a risk, cyber in general, it's a very universal risk.
Yeah.
It's one that really doesn't make a distinction on geography, on individuals, on businesses, sizes, types. It doesn't really make any distinction. This is a risk that it's ever present. It's here to stay. It's a massive industry from a risk perspective and also from a prevention perspective. So that is basically the link. The link around prevention. It's quite important. If you want to do it in the insurance parlay, the link between the risk transfer and the risk management, it's probably one of the risks that has to have it the most intertwined, because one cannot live without the other. Yeah. And that's precisely the key. The key is to make sure that cybersecurity becomes that first line of defense that enables the cyber insurance to really operate as it should, which is to protect the customers in the first place, to make sure that the claims actually don't become claims, and whether by prevention or prediction in all its forms, this is something that can effectively be managed quite proactively, and therefore have clients on the right side of that protection and prevention.
Yeah, absolutely. When we really talk about the synergies of, broadly in insurance, if I look at the history, there are certain type or a list of risks that we were able to cover, and there were certain we were not able to, right? And the days passes by, technology is evolving, and alongside many other things, and various kind of threats and risks are coming up. And it's interesting to see how insurance as an industry is also, of course, they have to in one way evolve as well. But how more can they grow? How more can they innovate to, cover risks that are very new, and a kind of threat which is we are seeing on a daily basis, like the cyber one. It's something known plus an unknown aspect that we all are going into, right?
100%. And when you think about the technology aspects that you just mentioned, this is probably one of the areas where Insurtech makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because you do need to have the technology. You need to be being on top of that technology to be able to really deliver on, how can the technology, enable the protection and the risk management that the insurance needs to have to eventually, hopefully not, but eventually enable the risk transfer.
Right.
So, it is a crucial point whereby both are very much linked, whether it's the traditional insurance players
Yeah.
building the right capabilities to have that technology in-house, or by partnerships with cybersecurity companies and technology companies that can really bring those capabilities to complement, the insurance aspect. So either way,
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal time to really be exploring those synergies and those relationships and those partnerships to enable the right solutions for customers.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think there are various companies, including some brokers in the world I've seen. They're trying to, come in together, join hands together to really understand this kind of threats. And for example, the most interesting which I came across recently was, which is not so recent, of course, is how they can better cover risk of wallets and, of course, the entire network for a crypto exchange, right? So how it's something that is known, as well as there are more things that we are learning as on a daily basis. So this is kind of very, very interesting on how insurance can play a major role to actually counter such threats for investors in a way.
Completely agree.
So my second question to you, Hilario, is in the realm of cybersecurity and insurance, what key challenges and opportunities arise when attempting to align strategies and practices, and how organizations effectively can navigate these complexities? Your thoughts?
Well, it's a very loaded question in
Yeah,
the sense
yeah,
that this is something that traditional risk management within organizations, would typically focus on the traditional risks
yeah,
that businesses would have, right? Whether it's property, whether it's auto, fleets, health,
yeah,
all sort of things that we've done for decades, if not centuries now. Cyber comes in to complement that, because effectively what back in the days would have been more things seen as disaster recovery and business continuity, and things of that nature now has an inherent risk that it's coming on top of that, which is the cyber aspect.
yeah,
And these is where I see collaboration happening more than ever before. This is where brokers, carriers, experts, technology companies, which we've spoken before right now, come in to really collaborate on what are the best practices, what are the best strategies, what is the exposures that need to be really managed through key capabilities, so that customers are well protected, not only in terms of having the right product from an insurance perspective, but having the right capabilities to really deliver
yeah,
prevention. I don't think a single entity can actually do everything. It's very hard, it's very complex, but I think the collaboration of different entities that bring in those services really help. So, just to give you an example, we have our own technology stack that delivers certain capabilities around prevention. And we have our own capacity. We're a Lloyd's cover holder in Canada and in the US. And we have a great deal of expertise to tap into through that. But certainly there will be cases where some clients require certain capabilities that we may not have. And in that case, we have a network of partners that can deliver those capabilities. And those you really want to make sure that exist in the right domain of expertise. You want to make sure that you have the right partners to help clients really understand who will be in a position to help the
yeah,
best when any of those risks, do require them. And so that continues to be, as it has been for centuries in the insurance, value chain, a key component of the delivery of the value
Yeah.
from an insurance perspective, which is collaboration. The value chain has a number of actors. They all deliver their right domain of expertise, and that's what it ends up, delivering the value that we promise, or the promise in itself that we provide to our customers.
So, do you think any sort of a changes, is happening in the way risk management was approached or handled by the broader insurance fraternity?
I think in general, risk management, doesn't change per se. When you look at it as a practice,
Right.
risk management, in essence, have always been looking at, what are the risks that we need to mitigate in order to prevent that a customer end up having a claim.
Yeah.
How do we bring technology solutions, whatever? And you can go from the analog world of the days of fire risks when, sprinklers came about and basically became, standard in the property market,
Yeah.
in order to have those kind of coverages, all the way to today, IoT devices, delivering risk management, to not only do risk prevention, but actually do even efficiencies around, certain risks. When you think about machinery, when you think about, monitoring infrastructure, et cetera, now you have a number of technologies and solutions that come in and bring risk prevention into the frame. But the actual practice of risk prevention continues to be, managing the same knowledge space that it has been managing for many years. The key here is to make sure that those are really the solutions that are required given the risks that customers are facing. So if today, when you think about cyber risks, one of the key issues is identity theft, you do want to have prevention solutions around risk management that do deliver something for that. For example, ID monitoring, for example, credentials monitoring in the case of businesses. And so the more companies understand what is the level of sophistication that risk management requires, the more companies are going to be better served in the context of not only the risk management, but also the risk transfer.
I think that's a very valid takeaway that you put in that, to understand what's the level of sophistication, I think that's a very key takeaway from this conversation, I would say.
I'll give you a quick example. Sorry to just to add to it, but I think this is important for the audience.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do at Box is not only have, for example, cyber scoring and outside scanning at the beginning. We also do monitoring, throughout the lifetime of the policy, so that businesses have, monitoring on key attributes of their business, to make sure that we're informing not only the customer but also the broker, about whether there are risks associated with the industry of the customer, whether we're monitoring hacker chatters, which is where this information is typically, socialized, et cetera. And so that really brings value throughout the lifetime of the policy for customers, because that's where that risk management / prevention aspect comes to life. And I think that can only add value. It's only appreciated by customers, and you can sophisticate things from there in as much as technology and best practices allow you to.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the increasing frequency of sophistication of cyber attacks, how do cybersecurity and insurance professionals collaborate to develop a solution which is innovative and frameworks that not only mitigate such risk but also promote a more resilient and adaptive security posture? What's your take?
It goes back to the point around being, having a dynamic, framework upon which insurance companies, brokers, MGAs, all of us who participate are really focused on. So, part of the key here is to know what's happening out there, know what is that hackers and organizations are doing, and how are they doing those things. Um, because in knowing that, we also get to know what should we do about it and what should we recommend and provide information to our customers.
Yeah.
If you don't have that practice, constantly monitoring and delivering information and analyzing it and providing that, you don't really know what's going on out there. Just another example that I can give you is our claims director is not just our global claims director. An individual with vast expertise coming from years of experience in the market, but he's also our director of threat intelligence, and so that level of responsibility within his role, threat intelligence in the context of claims is quite important because it has both the aspect of learning and understanding and providing the right tools and information to our customers before claims happen, in as much as we have to learn from the claims that do happen. And so that small change in the level of responsibility and accountability of an individual within the organization is the one that makes the difference between, are we focusing on these things for the benefit of our customers and ourselves, or we just simply don't have that practice at all and we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, so I think it's a very holistic approach, and especially talking about claims side by side parallelly, it's of course like handling the moment of truth in the insurance value chain, right? So I think
absolutely.
So of course, cybersecurity, it's something, as an issue it will keep growing, and it'll be more interesting to see how insurance evolves to actually mitigate such risk, even to an extent that helps the investors, policyholder, whoever it may be in the process.
And it's a very exciting time as well to be involved in it, because as I said at the beginning, given that cyber is so universal as a risk, it opens the door to make sure that we are looking after anybody and any organization that has any level of exposure to it. And so as this grows and our level of expertise grows and our level of sophistication grows in the insurance industry for it, there's always benefit around it. There's never a downside if you stay on top of it.
So in the traditional world, the threats were very different, and in the new world, the threats are more on the cyber side, on the online side, right? So insurance industry, if I may say, it would perhaps play a role of a cyber police. It's more of a policing than you really want to cover the people. You really want to take care of the shareholders who are in it. So
yeah, and you know what? It's interesting you use that term because yes, there's elements of that, in terms of what bad might be happening to customers and to the community at large out there. But at the same time, there's an element around education. There's an element around information. There's an element about training. There's an element where the proactiveness of sharing knowledge around these risks and how much more sophisticated they get every day, it's part of the value of the proposition that we bring to the market. Because if you don't really do that proactively, then you're not really bringing the issues to the frame so people are aware, therefore, as to what are the solutions they need to be thinking about and implementing. And the more proactive we are in sharing that and getting the society and the community and the enterprise, doing something about it, the better off we're all going to be. Because that's the other thing. In a digital world, in an interconnected world, the cyber risks has an ability to hit in an exponential way. And so the more people are connected, the more you're in a position to actually stop that.
No, I mean, fantastic point. I mean, I would say you mentioned that education and awareness is the key. The more people are aware of what kind of threats they might get into if they, for example, click a button or scroll a tab or whatever, I think that's one of the key. I think if that's done well, half of the job is done.
I completely agree.
So that's a fantastic point. And with that, Hilario, lovely discussion. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, and a true delight to have you as our guest.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much. And lastly, to wrap this up, thank you for watching the Insurtech Story videocast. See you at our next episode. Take care and stay safe. Goodbye for now.